Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. We camped near an old logging road in the thick heart of Tillamook Forest. The kind of place where the trees are so tall, the sky forgets to show up. It was me, my cousin Ray, and his girlfriend, Sarah. We'd been wanting to get away for a while. Life had grown too loud, too bright, too much. So we picked the quietest place we could find, somewhere GPS lost interest and phone signals curled up and died. The driving was rough, gravel popping under tires, tree branches tapping at the windows like they wanted in. We found a clearing just big enough for our 2 tents and a fire pit made from stones that looked like they'd been arranged decades ago. Someone had camped here before us. Many someones. That kind of old bones place. First night was perfect. We drank cheap beer, swapped ghost stories, and laughed way too loud. It was real and raw, the way only nature can make you feel when everything else is stripped away. Around midnight, we tucked ourselves in. The woods were so quiet. It was like the air had weight. Even the bugs held their breath. I don't know what woke me at 2:03 a.m., but I remember the time exactly. There wasn't a sound, not at first. Just a shift in pressure, like the forest had tilted. Then I heard it crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps, deliberate and slow, walking over dry leaves and broken twigs. I sat up in my tent, heart thumping like it was trying to punch its way out. I peeked out through the tiny mesh window. The campfire had burned down to dull orange guts, and standing just at the edge of the light was a man. Not a bear, not another camper. A man. He was facing our tents, still as stone. No lantern, no backpack, no jacket. He looked wrong, like he didn't belong to this place, like the forest had grown around him without noticing. He was dressed like someone going to church on a Sunday morning. White button-up shirt, tucked neatly into a pair of clean, dark slacks. Polished black shoes. Not a speck of dirt on him. Not a wrinkle. Not a shadow. I whispered for Ray. He mumbled something, half asleep, but when I said, "There's someone outside," his eyes flew open. Ray pulled the zipper down just enough to look out, and that's when the man turned his head and looked directly at us. No change in expression, no movement, not even a blink, just eyes, dead calm eyes. Ray reached for his hunting knife, and I saw the skin on his arm bump up with goose flesh. He slowly unzipped the tent, careful not to make a sound. But by the time we stepped outside, the man was gone. Just gone. No footsteps. No rustling. No fading presence. Like he'd never been there at all. We stayed up the rest of the night, fire blazing, backs against each other like scared kids at a sleepover. Sarah didn't believe us at first, but the way Ray's voice trembled when he described the man, it got to her. Morning came like a lifeline. We laughed it off, blamed it on whiskey and the dark. Told ourselves it had to be another hiker who got lost or confused, maybe even a ranger. But none of us believed that. Not really. Second night was quiet. Too quiet. Even the birds kept their songs to themselves. We didn't talk about the man, not directly. We all thought about him, though. I saw it in the way Ray scanned the tree line every few minutes, and the way Sarah kept rubbing the silver cross she wore around her neck. I barely slept. Any crack of twigs outside made my spine go stiff. But nothing came. It wasn't until the third night that it got worse. We decided not to stay. Just a gut feeling, like something was ticking down and the forest was holding its breath. We packed our stuff in the dark, barely speaking. Our headlights cut through the trees, and we followed the trail back toward the gravel road. It was dawn, fog rising off the forest floor like breath. I turned back, just once, to take one last look at the clearing. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me hoped he wasn't real. Maybe I needed proof that he was. He was there, standing in the exact spot where our fire had been. Same white shirt, same black slacks, same motionless stance, hands clasped in front of him, like he was praying. But this time he was smiling. That smile didn't belong to a human face. It stretched just a little too wide, stayed still too long, like his mouth remembered what smiling looked like, but had forgotten why people did it. He didn't move, didn't chase. He just watched us go. And I swear to you, I heard something in my head. Not a voice, but a feeling, like he wasn't done with us. We never talked about it again. Ray and Sarah broke up a few months later, and I stopped camping altogether. But sometimes, late at night, when I can't sleep, I'll dream of the woods. I'll smell that pine-sweet air, feel that cold breath of fog on my neck. And when I look up in the dream, I see him, still smiling, still watching, still waiting. And I wonder how long he'll wait before he comes out of the woods again. Because some people you meet once. Others, you meet when it's already too late. Story 2. I've always found comfort in solitude. Real solitude. Not the kind you get by turning your phone off in your apartment for a few hours, but the kind that swallows you whole. That's why I used to go solo camping. The kind that puts you miles from cell towers, grocery stores, and the sound of traffic. It's where I used to feel the most alive. In 2019, I took a solo trip deep into the Appalachian woods in North Carolina. I'd done this enough times to know how to pack light, but smart. Tent, compass, satellite phone, bear spray, the basics. I was out there for 3 days, maybe 4. I'd picked a location far off the beaten path. No one around. No trail markers. Just me in the wild. The first night was uneventful. Cold, still, and strangely peaceful. The kind of silence that's so thick, it presses against your ears like water. I made a small fire, heated up a pouch of beef stew, and fell asleep with the stars above me. On the second day, I decided to hike further. I didn't take the compass. I wasn't going far, just scouting. I followed a ridge up for maybe 40 minutes before I noticed something unnatural through the trees. A flash of color. Blue. I thought it was a discarded rain poncho, or maybe a tarp someone had used for shelter and left behind. When I got closer, I saw it was exactly that, a tarp, faded and rotting at the edges tied between 2 trees. Beneath it was an old sleeping bag, half-zipped and dark with grime. Torn snack wrappers littered the ground, flattened by weather. There was even a rusted suit turned over near the foot of the bag. The whole setup looked like it hadn't been touched in months, maybe years. But here's what got me. Everything was too neat. The tarp was tied tight. Knots that hadn't sagged. The sleeping bag was placed precisely beneath it, not tossed or crumpled like someone had fled in a hurry. It didn't feel abandoned. It felt arranged. Still, I chalked it up to some backwoods squatter or hiker who got lazy and left their stuff. Creepy, sure, but not unheard of. I backed away and returned to my camp, which was about half a mile down the trail. I didn't mention the tarp in my notes or log into my GPS. Maybe I didn't want to. Maybe some part of me knew, even then, not to mess with it. That night, the wind picked up and the temperature dropped fast. The trees swayed and groaned above me, but I couldn't sleep. Not because of the cold, because of the sound. Something was dragging through the forest. Not shuffling, not walking, dragging. At first, it was distant, so far off I thought I might be imagining it. Then it got closer, a long, slow pull, like a heavy coat being scraped across gravel. It circled the outer edges of the camp, low and steady. I unzipped my sleeping bag just enough to grab the flashlight from my pack, but I didn't turn it on. My fire had burned down to orange coals. There was just enough glow for me to make out the shape of my tent and the edge of the clearing. I waited. Then, at 2:14 a.m., I heard it, clear as a whisper pressed against the fabric of my tent. You came too close. My heart nearly stopped. The voice was dry, emotionless, almost rehearsed. It wasn't angry. It wasn't even threatening. It was just true. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The dragging sound stopped. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, measured, circling my tent in wide loops. Every few steps, the footsteps would pause, and I swear I could feel something standing there, watching me, inches from the nylon wall. Once, twice, 3 full circles. Then nothing. Not a sound. Not even the wind. I stayed still until morning. Not a wink of sleep. As soon as the first dull light touched the tops of the trees, I packed up. Fast. I hiked back up to the tarp area because I had to see it. Maybe I needed proof that it wasn't real. But when I got there, the tarp was gone. So was the sleeping bag, the food wrappers, the rusted can. Even the rope marks were gone, like no one had ever tied anything to those trees. I felt cold all over. Not like body cold, soul cold. Like the forest had swallowed something and was pretending nothing had ever been there. When I got back to the nearest ranger station, a good 2-hour drive, I told the guy at the desk everything. I expected a laugh, or maybe a warning about wild animals. He just looked at me. No surprise, no disbelief. Then he said, "That blue tarp moves every few weeks. We've never caught who's behind it, or what." I blinked at him. "You mean it's been reported before?" "Yeah," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Always in a different spot. Always the same setup. Same story. You hear something. You see something. Then it's gone." He paused. "Most folks don't talk about it after. I haven't gone solo camping since that trip. I still hike, but I stick to known trails, the ones with kids and couples and dogs barking. I pretend that comfort comes from the crowd, but the truth is, I'm just afraid of hearing that voice again. You came too close. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. Like whatever was out there didn't want to hurt me. Not yet. But it wanted me to know that I crossed a line. That next time, I might not be so lucky. And the worst part, every now and then, I hear something in the woods when I walk alone. Just for a second. A dragging sound. And I wonder if the tarp ever stopped moving. Story 3. When I was 16, my family took a trip to Colorado. We'd done camping before. Little family adventures where the worst thing that ever happened was a raccoon stealing our snacks or Dad forgetting the matches. But this one still wakes me up at night. even after all these years. It was late July, thick in that summer heat where everything smells like pine needles and dust. We pulled into a rustic state campground tucked inside a forest valley, where the trees stood tall and still like quiet sentinels. The kind of place that makes you feel small, no matter how grown you think you are. At the check-in cabin, an old man with a sun-wrinkled face handed us a hand-drawn map. It was all red pen and uneven lines, like someone sketched it in a hurry. Each site was marked with a small circle and a number. I counted 45 spots, but when he looked at our reservation, he paused. His eyes stayed on the paper for just a second too long. Campground 46, he mumbled. Right. We opened a new one. My mom asked why it wasn't on the map. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. It's recent, still being added to things. He circled a spot past Site 45, way off to the edge. Keep going past the old Ranger Tower. You'll see a post with a number on it. That's your place. We drove in silence for a bit after that. Something about the way he said it unsettled all of us, but no one wanted to ruin the vacation vibe. My little sister, Chloe, was humming to herself, pressing her face to the window as the forest got denser. Campground 46 wasn't like the others. It didn't have a gravel pad or picnic table. It was just a clearing between trees with a single wooden post, slightly crooked, and 46 scratched onto it in what looked like charcoal or maybe marker. It was handwritten, uneven and dark, like someone angry had scrawled it in. Still, Dad got out and started unloading the gear. Mom tried to keep the mood light, talking about how off the grid it felt and how nice it would be to unplug for a few days. But the forest was silent. Not the peaceful kind of quiet either. It was dead. No bird song, no chirping insects, not even the wind in the leaves. Just stillness. That first night, we couldn't get the firewood to burn right. It would catch, crackle, then puff out like someone was snuffing it from above. We blamed the humidity, but I noticed something strange. Every time the flames died, Chloe looked toward the trees, like she was listening. What is it? I asked her, half whispering. She shrugged. Someone's whistling. I paused. What? From the woods, she said. They keep doing the same little tune. Like Beata. I froze. That was the jingle from an old cartoon we used to watch as kids. Something dumb and cheerful, but there was nothing cheerful in her voice. You're probably hearing wind, I muttered. She looked at me. It's not the wind. It knows my name. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like something was just outside the tent, watching, waiting. I thought maybe it was a bear or a coyote, something natural. But deep down, I knew better. Sometime after midnight, Dad said he was going to walk back to the main water station. It was a half-mile down the trail, near Site 30. He took the big flashlight and told Mom he'd be back in 20 minutes. 30 minutes passed, then an hour. We started calling for him, but our voices sounded swallowed in the forest. Mom was panicking, trying to stay calm for Chloe's sake, but I saw the fear in her eyes. Finally, around 2 a.m., we saw the beam of Dad's flashlight in the distance. It swayed side to side, like it wasn't in someone's hand, but dangling from a rope. He came stumbling into camp, eyes glazed, shirt torn at the collar. Dad! I ran up to him, but he didn't even look at me. He just stood there, blinking slowly, like he didn't know where he was. Where were you? Mom asked. He stared past us, toward the trees. Then he whispered, "They didn't like that we came back here." "Who?" Mom asked. He didn't answer. He sat by the fire pit and didn't say another word until dawn. We packed up the second the sun touched the tops of the trees. I didn't care about the deposit or breakfast or the fact that we had 2 more nights booked. We just wanted out. We drove in silence, just like we arrived. Months passed, but the memory stuck. I couldn't shake it. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I called the ranger station. A woman answered, polite but distracted. I said, "We stayed there last July. I just wanted to ask something. Is Campground 46 still open?" There was a pause. Then, "I'm sorry, what site?" 46, I repeated. It was off the map, near the old Ranger Tower. Another pause. Longer. "We don't have a 46, she said slowly. "Our map goes up to 45. Always has." "No, I'm sure," I said. It was past 45. The post had 46-foot written on it. Silence. Then she asked, very carefully, "Was the number handwritten?" I felt something cold crawl down my back. "Yes," she whispered, almost too softly to hear. "Don't go back. Please." Then she hung up. I never told my parents about that call. What'd I even say? That we stayed at a campsite that didn't exist? Sometimes I dream about that clearing. Sometimes I hear the cartoon jingle in my sleep, low and distant. And sometimes, when it's very quiet, I swear I hear whistling from the woods behind our house. We live nowhere near Colorado.